by far my favorite topic. And we couldn't have picked a better day for it. So we're nice and small, so we can be as intimate and as thorough as we need to be. Have you all reflected on this topic a little bit? I'm curious. Prior to getting here, or do I need to convince you that death is inevitable? I'm assuming you already know that. That's a prerequisite in order to really get the most out of this thing. It is really interesting. As a therapist, are there any other therapists here? Okay, you have to take my word for it then. As a therapist, one of the things you discover over time and with experience is that almost every form of mental and emotional dysfunction, dis-ease, upset, most of the severe conditions are listed in the DSM and so forth and so on. When you drill them down to their fundamental causes, you'll discover that the cause of most of them is the inability to accept the reality of that particular person's inevitable death and dying. In life, and those of you who are on the spiritual path, and I know some of you are, and maybe after this, some of you will get on one. Seriously. Because you think about it, the realization and the acceptance of death is the fundamental impetus that drive people to religion in the first place. It is the recognition of your death that even justifies following any kind of spiritual path or any religious practice. So, death. Death. That's the only problem you got. Your problem is that you're going to die. And there's no way to get around that. You can either die prepared for death, or you will die unprepared. But die you will. The you, the sense of self you are operating out of, the you that you presume yourself to be, that is mortal. That you fundamentally is based on your identification with your body, your mind, your emotions, your history, your biography, etc., etc. All temporary, all on their way out of here. And it's not that you're going to die sometime in the distant future. You are dying moment to moment. When you were born, simultaneously you begin to die. So it's not something in the future. It's happening right now, little by little. You see? So when you say, well, I'm 65 years old, what you really need to understand, that means you are 65 years dead. Okay? Or you're 30 years dead. Or you're 23 years dead. You see? But you're on your way out of here. The you that you're trying to perpetuate to infinitum, that is on its way out of here. So death is the only problem you have, you see? And there's only one solution to death, from a psychological point of view. You have to accept it. So we're going to talk a lot about the role that the acceptance of death plays in maintaining your mind in a state of health. So far, so good? And so we're really, really small, so that's good. Love this small meeting, because then we can get into the nuances of all of this here. So feel free to give me your input, present your questions, and so forth and so on. I don't know when we'll get around to this again. These kind of workshops are not something that I'm able to do as frequently as I like. Usually I take excerpts from the the teachings on death during satsang and our other kinds of spiritual meetings, but rarely do we have an opportunity to really address this thing head on, with no interference. So, death has to be factored into how you do in your life. If we do our life without factoring in the reality, the certainty, there's no doubt about it. This is not something you can doubt. This is going down. And if you don't factor in your mortality to the way you are living, then the Buddha called such a person a fool. That's a fool. And what will happen to the fool is that the fool will live their entire life, piss it away, and never get prepared. And they will die a miserable death. They will not be happy. They cannot be happy. They cannot be fulfilled. They have left out the most important factor. You will tend to be silly, superficial. You will live a meaningless life. Do that make sense to you all? Okay. We don't like to think about death because the presumption is that the more I keep death and my dying on my mind, the less I will be able to enjoy my life. It's just the opposite. Just the opposite of that. The less you keep death on your mind, the less you will enjoy life. And now we will be able to go into that a little bit more as we get into the psychology of death and dying and loss. Okay? So you have that threefold problem. One, you will have one, death itself, the end of your life. I believe there's some, I know you're a funeral director. Isn't anybody else in here a funeral director? Are you Monica? Hi, Monica.
Hi.
All right, good. So, you know, you are end-of-life professionals, right? And that means, by definition, in your profession, you have to have some understanding of this. It's really interesting that funeral directors are descendants of a very unique group of people that have served us in these moments of death, dying, and loss since time immemorial. In ancient Egypt, Kemet, they were referred to as the Sema priests. You see, Sema. These were the highest level you could reach in the Egyptian priesthood. You couldn't get higher than that. And these men and women possessed a profound knowledge of how to help a person deal with these kind of inevitabilities. Hence, the mystery of that particular system. It was not information that was just given to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. It was a special skill set. And not just in Egypt, you see. Of course, those of you who are students of African history know about and have heard about the Egyptian Book of the Dead and so forth and so on. All of that kind of therapy was made available via the Sema priests. Even in ancient China, and Tibetan Buddhism especially, you see, they have the Bhagwan teaching, they call them, or the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It served the same function. In fact, the Sema priests would very often hide themselves in a sarcophagus that follows the dead. It would go all the way with the dead person, because they understood that just when you are pronounced clinically dead, the real you is not dead. And so it has to receive instructions. And so the Sema priest will go in a sarcophagus along with the possession to the place of burial, temple, whatever the place may be, and continue the instructions. So, unlike today, where there's almost no available help for a person who is entered into the dying state on their way to death. So your first problem is death itself. Then there's dying. The physical part of it all. You see? The Sema priest, the Bado master also would assist you in your very dying itself. You know? And I know that a lot of people who are in denial about death and really suffering from some kind of severe attack of vanity presume that you're not afraid of death. I guarantee you, you will be afraid. How else could you be? You've not made any preparation for it. You will be terrified. You see, in Christian philosophy and mythology, that's described as the hell. You will go through hell, for sure. Before you're dead, you will go through hell in the dying process. And of course, the third part of our problems is loss. It's that you're going to lose stuff, you see. You're going to lose husbands and wives in the form of divorces. You're going to lose jobs. You're going to lose stuff. Loss is a part of the human experience. It cannot be avoided. So sometimes you experience death when there is nobody being buried, the death of a relationship, the loss of this, the loss of that. And the inability to handle loss is another source of so much of our sorrow and suffering. You don't know how to handle loss. You think everything is going to be forever. Nothing is forever here. There's no experience that you haven't. There's no thing that you possess. There's no relationship that you are in that is going to be forever. All human experiences that is coming through your five senses of perception, all objects that are the objects of those senses, all of that is impermanent, transient, will not last. You're going to lose. And then in the end, you're going to lose your whole life. So you can understand if you can't handle losing a job, how are you going to handle losing your entire life? You're not going to make it. Am I too morbid here? No. Okay. All right. So I want us to really understand why when asked, the Buddha said that of all of the thousands and thousands of teachings that he gave, the most important teachings were the teachings on death, dying, loss. It is interesting, even in the Bible, we hear the Apostle Paul confessing that I die daily. You see, he's practicing this death and dying. You see, more about that later. Okay? So, let's see if we can get to work here. So, I'll have more to say about all of this as we go through this here. Let's start with, I guess everybody got a workbook, right? Yes. Okay, let's go to our workbook. Now, some of you rascals in here, during a feedback session that we had, have done some of this, so I don't want you to dominate with answers, okay? No showing off here, huh? So, unless I call them. But let's start with, what is the definition of loss, bereavement? Have you ever thought about it? When we say a person is grieving, because grieving is what you experience when you don't understand the nature of reality. And the less you understand, the deeper will be your grieving. So what is the definition of grieving? What are the psychodynamics of grieving? Let's get into that a little bit. Talk to me. You're not dead yet. Yes, beloved.
Depression?
Huh?
Depression?
That's a symptomology. And we're going to get into that. But what is the psychodynamics of grief? What is that feeling? How do you define it? When you're grieving. Well, yeah, that's another symptom. But what is it?
From the funeral perspective,
yes,
we are always taught that I think it's boldly dealt with the nature of attachments.
Yeah,
and they become almost like a part of you. So the loss is various aspects of trauma associated with that which you were attached. You have strong attachments. The stronger the attachments,
The deeper the grief.
right.
Yeah. What is that feeling? What is that feeling? What does grief feel like? What is the feeling? What is the psychology of it all? What is the person experiencing psychologically? Those are some things too. You all are moving in the right direction here. But I just wanted to kind of get a kind of definition for us so that we're all on the same page when we talk about loss and so forth. The word bereavement, which is the more sophisticated form of grief. But bereavement is the word that comes from the French. It means the feeling of being lost, robbed. Bereavement means the feeling of being robbed. So when a person is experiencing grief, what they're feeling is the loss of a cherished loved one or thing or situation or circumstances. You see? There's also, along with that, the feeling that they have been robbed. That something wrong has happened. Again, not understanding. If you have been born, you're going to die, by definition. Nothing wrong has happened here, you see? So it is a real complex and complicated set of feelings that a person who has lost a loved one goes through. And the task today is to try to get some insight into it. If we want to achieve a perfect understanding of that, that's not the purpose of the workshop, but to get you to thinking, especially those of you who are in the funeral or the death industry. What else can I call it other than that? You see? Yes, beloved.
Green.
You what?
I'm agreeing.
You agree? Okay. So, and again, if you will notice as we go through this, the parallels, you see? When your wife or husband suddenly divorce you, there's a loss, right? You don't bury them. You know, they're not dead, but they're out of your life. There's a loss. There's a sudden disappearance of someone or something that you have loved and cherished. And you will almost always feel that you have been robbed. Something wrong has happened here. But even our love, which is really attachment, comes to an end. Love don't come to an end, but it's imitation, which is attachment, that comes to an end. And suddenly the person is no longer attached to you. Suddenly you are no longer necessary for their sense of well-being, fulfillment, so forth. And you go into a state of grief. That state of grief can show up in all kinds of forms, depression, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk about that as we move on, okay? So we have a little bit then of a kind of working, a beginner's definition of what is going on for those who are experiencing loss due to death, separation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This group. Any questions about it? Anything to add to that, you know, definition that you feel can be useful as we go along? Yes, but
Does the term betrayal?
yeah, you can feel, that you can feel that the person betrayed you. There's all kinds of feelings. We're going to get into that. You can feel that you have been basically wronged by this person. You know, they died on you. You know, they didn't take their death personally. You know what I mean? As if they had a choice in the matter. You see? Right? You died on me. You said you would never leave me. You know, well, everybody gonna leave somebody. Yeah. But you're right. With that question, let's go into the second piece here on the page, and let's look at some of the symptomology of grief, because you guys are already going there. So what are some of the other symptoms of grief? And we're going to do it systematically, first at the level of your body, because grief has an effect on your body, right? Right? It affects you across the whole spectrum of your being. So let's take a moment and investigate what are some of the effects that the grieving process has on our body.
Loss of appetite.
Okay, I got you. She had a question, her hand up.
Muscle aches, tension.
Okay, tension in the body, tension. Yeah,
Blood pressure rising.
blood pressure, right? What did you say? Loss of appetite,
Sleeplessness.
sleeplessness. You all sound like you know what you're talking about. What else?
Sleeping too much.
Huh?
Sleeping a
Oversleeping,
lot.
right? Lethargy, lethargic, loss of energy, etc. What else?
Anger. Well, that's
Well, yeah, that's gonna go into the emotion. But again, just at the level of your body. And it don't even have to be the loss of your wife or husband or your child or a loved one. It don't have to be radical loss in the form of death. Just when you lose anything that you cherish.
crying,
Huh?
crying.
You cry? Yeah. That's interesting because crying is nature's way of relieving you from too much stress in the body mind. Crying and laughter. Yes, sir.
Binge eating and drinking.
Binge eating and drinking, okay? You feel empty. There's a void and you're trying to fill that up. You're trying to make yourself feel better, right? And sometimes not just eating and so forth, right? Drugs, alcohol, right? Hypersexual activity, a lot of television, shopping, I mean, all of those are designed to somehow make you feel better, to give you some kind of relief from the agony of your loss. Very, very true. What else, you see?
Withdrawing.
That becomes a psychological behavior. We're going to get into that, right?
Sickness.
The body. Yeah, if you're having all of this shit going on, you probably are sick, right? In fact, a lot of the beds in hospital are occupied by people who are having a physical breakdown, a nervous breakdown, as they call it, you see, as a result of traumatic loss. Traumatic loss. Yes, sir.
One of the things we see is so common in funerals, is people that stand up, they start screaming and they run out of the room.
Yeah.
And they're comforted, they may vomit or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You see that
Yeah,
often.
yeah, upset stomachs and all of that.
Right.
The appetite, because the whole digestive system is affected by that. There's a lot of stress in there. Some people have a heart attack, you know what I mean, and so forth. So,
Yeah.
you see, you want to really become capable of identifying the symptoms of grief at the level of the body. Because some people are grieving and they don't even know it. You follow what I'm saying? They don't know why they're having these consistent migraines. They don't know why they can't keep stuff down. They don't know why they are experiencing insomnia. At the unconscious level, they've not processed some loss. You follow me? They just don't know it. But the symptoms in the body is going to show up, right? That can't be hidden. You know what I mean? Yes, and I'm sure there's many, many more, but you getting the idea? That that state of mind that is grieving impacts the body. It is psychosomatic. And there'll be more that we can say about it, but so far so good. What are some of the effects that the grieving process, the feeling of grief, have on you emotionally?
Anger.
Yeah, anger, depression,
Abandonment.
yeah, feelings of abandonment. And this anger piece is big. Anger piece is big. Because as you were saying, Buddha, the anger can be at the deceased. You angry at this bastard. Died, left you with all these bills, all these kids, told you to stop all that drinking, smoking, and what have you, right? You see? But you didn't listen. You follow what I'm saying? So there can be anger at the deceased. There can be anger at yourself because maybe I should have took a more proactive role in making sure that he went to the doctor, or she went to the doctor, et cetera, et cetera. So you can be angry at yourself, you see. You can be angry at life. You can be angry at God. Why you let my baby die? You see my point? You see, you can definitely be angry at the past, you see. Very often that kind of anger is what makes grieving so difficult. You see, you can't get past this obsession with what I should have did, could have done, etc. Yes, ma'am. Self.
So, what could I have done better? What
Yeah.
could I have did
Yeah.
to avoid all of?
Yeah, how could I have controlled it? How could I have stopped this from happening?
How could I have contributed to?
Or what role did I play? Yeah, yeah. And that creates all kinds of feelings, you see. So you get guilt, you get shame. What else? Y'all doing good.
Resentment, like, why did this have to happen to me? Why couldn't it happen to somebody else?
Yeah, you start feeling like victimized. You know, why my people I love die? You know what I mean? Like your people you love, it violates the law. It should be exempt. You know what I mean? Nobody you love in your life is exempt from the law of death and infirmity. Where you get that idea? You see? It's just a sign you didn't understand where you were at. In this place, nothing lasts. Whatever had come into existence will durate, and then it will disappear, and it will disappear suddenly. And it will not ask your permission. You see? But if you lack the understanding to handle the nature of reality, then you suffer. Fundamentally, guys, that's what suffering is. Philosophically speaking. Suffering is the inability to cope with reality as it is. You see? And the most evidence of the nature of reality is death. What could be more certain than that? But we live our life pretending that death is not going to happen to me or anybody I love or anybody in my life. I'm never going to lose nothing. I'm not going to lose my job. Yeah, keep you setting yourself up for some real heartbreak. Why? What do you think? Your job is going to be forever? Your job's not going to be forever. It's going to go sooner or later. So when you get fired, you can't handle the intrusion of reality. So you get a gun and you go up there and you kill your damn boss and everybody else in there. Then you go home and blow your brains out and kill your kids too. You see? It's on the news every day. True. True. The woman want to leave you. You couldn't believe this woman want to leave you. Good man as you are to her, right? She leave you. Now you gonna stalk some. You don't give a shit about no restraining order. Pretty much. You gonna hit her, you know what I mean? You see?
But counterattack. I'm gonna avoid that.
That's right. What else? Emotionally, how does this, and again, think about yourself because this is not so much a abstract exercise here because you're a human being too. You done lost stuff. There's been people who died in your life. Have you handled all of that debris that was left over from the loss? If you haven't, it's just underground. You see? It's just underground. Yes, sir.
With anxiety.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of anxiety. You see? A lot of fear. What I'm going to do now. What's going to happen to us and the kids now? Fear. Anxiety, you see? Stress. Yeah. A lot of stress. You're not worried about, you see, you do a lot of worrying. You become worried now. You see? Right, worried, what I'm gonna do? You see, what I'm gonna do for sex? What I'm gonna do for money? Who gonna cook for me now? Who gonna help me pay these bills? Who gonna help me raise these kids? You become worried, and worried about who? Yourself. You ain't worried about the deceased. Right. grief fundamentally is a selfish phenomenon. I know this sounds strange to you, but it is so. You're worried about yourself, not the deceased. When the loved one leaves you in separation, you see, when you have a death-like experience, you ain't worried about the other. You're worried about now, you know? What I'm gonna do for a woman? Or if I'm gonna get me another man, I'm 49, shit. You know what I mean? Right? I can't get out here and compete with those young girls, you know what I mean? I'm gonna get me another man, you worried about you. True? True.
Sometimes you can worry about the deceased if you don't have enough money to bury.
That's true. That's still worrying about yourself. He done died. I told we should have got to the share. Now I gotta go sell. I gotta go pass around a hat. It's embarrassing. One of the experiences is you just embarrassed. This word done embarrassed you. You gotta tell about that. Done died. I told him get some damn insurance. Got me around here begging, didn't get a suit to bury him in, you know what I mean? Et cetera, et cetera. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
It's something. You can lose a job. A lot of men lose jobs, they're so embarrassed they can't even tell their wife and family. You know what I mean? They get up and still go out like they going to work. They're embarrassed. You see? It's really complex. You see? You see? More suffering. We already seen there's suffering at the level of the body. Now we're going to add to it, there's another layer of suffering. It's the emotional suffering that results when there is loss, especially when you don't understand. All of this experience happens because we do not understand and we have not accepted the most certain thing about life is that you're going to die. Everything else you can have doubt about. That is no doubt about that. Yes, beloved.
How do you categorize the conflicts that are loss of the fertile ground for conflicts to arise from within the family?
That's
You
another.
see that when we're making arrangements all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Were there things that were surface,
Yeah.
underneath the
Yeah.
surface come to a head?
Oh, yes, we're going to look into that, in fact, because what happens, there's a psychosocial aspect
That's
to it.
okay.
You know, because when there's a law, you don't feel like doing nothing. You don't feel like being bothered with nobody. You don't be bothered with all these people, these in-laws, his mom, his sisters. You don't like them no damn. Now, all they want to know, did he leave any money? And you won't give us any of that money? Y'all want me to now have to cook all this stuff to bring down? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. You don't feel like it. There's a kind of withdrawal from social activities very often, you know? And that's more of the psychosocial. We'll come back to that. So I guess I'll make a note. Something else on the emotional side.
I was just thinking about the emotional experiences that people have when they lose a child
Yes.
that's taken from them. They feel that the child was taken from them unnecessarily by violence of some kind.
Yeah.
And they feel that the child was innocent.
Yeah.
And why did this happen to my child like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
I don't
Wrong.
know how this blessed.
Yeah, something wrong had happened. You see? That's buried in all of these kinds of emotional reaction. At the core, the feeling that something wrong had happened. You see? There's all kind of feelings. There's regret. Right? Remorse. I mean, the list is not about 34, you know, but, you know, you just want to get a sense of what is going on with the person and what will go on with you. You see what you see in other people? That's going to be in you too. How you going to handle all that? You don't feel these things too. Yes, brother.
I know I've seen in some instances strong greed and desperation.
Desperation. Yeah, I like that. That comes out of the fear and anxiety component. Desperation, yeah. Yes, Miss Evans.
Hi everyone.
I'd like to confess a measure of jealousy. Like when I go to church and I see families together, I'm thankful for families, I love you all, but
Somebody's
I
phone.
feel alone,
Yeah,
and it's a little
yes.
envious.
Yeah, loneliness. The abandonment piece, you know, right? Loneliness. You mentioned one, jealousy. That's a form of anger, jealousy. You see, because what is jealousy when you look at jealousy? Jealousy is the feeling of having been robbed to some extent. Jealousy is the feeling that somebody else has something that I deserve but do not have. You know? You almost feel that the universe, you know, is mistreating you. There's the victimization piece. Are you with me? But yeah, jealousy. You see a mother with her child, holding hands, praying, and you feel robbed. That's bereavement. Robbed. Something's taken from me, stolen from me. And it was a wrong. Why me? You see? You can fall into self-pity. You see? Wallow in self-pity. Start feeling sorry for yourself. You see? Why this happened to me? Like you are some kind of exception. You know what I mean? Nobody is exempt. Everybody gonna lose here. Sooner or later. And usually sooner than you would think. Yes, but
Denial.
yeah, that's one of the things that we do. We're going to come to that too. So that's a good one. Let's move from here into the mental and cognitive effects of grief. Since Mukherjee, you have already given us one of the cognitive effects. You see, the mind property. You see, denial. Denial. You ain't dead. Get up out of that. You get up out of that casket, boy. You know, you ain't dead. Get on out of here. You know what I mean? Total denial. True?
Yeah.
That's why very often you will notice that people who are very unprepared for the reality of death, dying, and loss, when that happens in their life, denial becomes their reaction. And you can look at them and you will see they have lost their mind. They too feel that they have lost their mind. You see? Their whole mental process is affected. Are you with me? They can't think clearly. You know what I mean? They have an hallucination. I just seen my son walk through the door. But y'all buried him last week. You know what I mean? She ain't seen, you know, all kinds of things for him. Yeah. What are some of the other cognitive and mental effects that grief has on it? How does grief affect the thinking process?
Acceptance. Acceptance.
What?
Accepting it. Accepting the death.
Yeah, but that's a healing part of it. We'll get to that later, so make a note.
Related to the denial.
See, because if you could have accepted the death, you wouldn't have went through all of this in the first place.
Well, some people don't come to terms of accepting it.
Yeah, that's part of the grieving process. We're going to talk about that, you know. It moves from shock to anger to bargaining, et cetera, to its phase. And that takes time. When you understand it, ain't no time left. The understanding is there, and the healing from loss is also instant. It's immediate. It doesn't take 6 months.
I was thinking flashbacks.
Yeah, now we talking. Because in some sense, you see, it mimics post-traumatic stress, right? And if you're familiar with PTSD symptoms, right, you'll see a lot of them in people who are grieving, flashbacks. They become obsessed with the moment of death. You know, they can't get it out of their mind. You know, every time I close my eyes, I still see them laying up in their house. I still see them, and you know, they become obsessed with the event. They can't stop thinking about post-traumatic stress disorder sets in. And that can produce what we call prolonged grieving disorders. You see, prolonged grieving disorders are those disorders that describe the person who cannot stop breathing. 10 years later, they're still breathing as if it really happened yesterday. They can't get out of there. You see, very tragic. You know, very tragic. Yes.
That anger turns into a rage, or they become violent.
Yeah, and of course, again, that's because there's no airtight separation between these various categories. They kind of overlap, but certainly you can see how anger over time becomes rage. You see, violence. Yeah. And you develop a kind of violent disposition. You know what I mean? Your disposition you just always have. You see, chronic anger. You see. And chronic many other things too. Chronic depression, all kinds of things. You see. Yes, but
Is there a fixation on what has happened?
yeah, fixation. Yeah. You see, and that's obsessive. You know. Obsessive compulsive behavior. You know, you go OCD now. You see, obsessed with it. You see, cannot let it go over and over. Oh, you keep trying to figure out what could I have done. You know what I mean? How could I have stopped that from happening? Oh, I should have did something. I mean, you just become obsessed with it. That obsession is very often the underlying cause of the sleeplessness. You can't go to sleep. Your mind can't stop thinking about it. You see? Yeah. Can you think clearly?
No.
Hell no. Hell no. You see, you become irrational. Become irrational, you can't think. Yes, Miss Evans, you had something?
I was just saying confusion,
Oh, yes, my dear.
a ton of confusion.
A lot of confusion. You see? Doubt. You start doubting a lot of things now. Doubting your dear God. If there was a doubt, why would they let? Oh, it's my mind. No, that's the guy to cut it off. Take a moment here, huh? To remind me of death. Maybe you should get you a mindfulness. Sorry about that. Yes, but
I don't know if this is overlapping to emotional, but I was thinking about like withdrawal from yourself, withdrawal from other, like dealing with other people, withdrawal from, you know, your daily activities, things like that, and like withdrawal,
yeah,
like going into a shell.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. And that is a kind of emotional response. It's a symptom of you falling into a kind of depression. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What about forgetfulness?
Could be, I don't know, but that's a good one, you know, a kind of amnesia, you know what I mean? Like a person that, let's say, a person that is raped when they're young, right? It's such a traumatic thing that they repress it out of consciousness, you know what I mean? So that they can have relief from the horror of all that, you see? So that's possible, you know, they can certainly repress the experience and forget all about it, you know what I mean? Get all about it.
Brother Bhagwan,
Yes, brother.
I'm looking at all of these elements here, the denial, the flashback, the chronic anger, the fixation with the obsessive compulsive disorder, the irrational, the confusion. Is all this accumulating? If not, if there's no intervention, could this ultimately lead to some type of psychotic episode?
Oh, yes. Yes, and definitely, they can become psychotic. Yeah, definitely. Now you begin to see why, especially those of you who are in the death industry, you know what I mean? Who are trained to deal with end of life crisis. You know, you gotta have you gotta get that skill set. You see, if all you did is bury the person's loved one, you haven't done very much at all in servicing that family. You know what I mean? You see?
Being involved in the healthcare industry,
Mm-hmm.
all of this makes sense because you have to nurture them, you have to understand them, you have to give them the tools that they need to get through all of these things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so if you can't give them those things,
Mm-hmm.
then it does not end.
It never is, right?
Never. It will
No,
never
no,
end.
no, you don't bring it to an end, and you have failed in that moment.
Absolutely, and as a person, you fail yourself and
You fail
a
your client.
patient or person.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's good to have some therapy instead of physical and mental and just giving them pills.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna here. dish out some
Medicate.
pills. I'm gonna medicate you. I'm gonna dish out some pills, and that's it. And you're gonna be okay tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't happen
No,
that way.
not at all. And some more progressive companies that provide funeral services have added an additional component for grief. They provide grief counseling to their clients, you see. Invariably, they'll wind up in therapy, or one of the most dramatic and most negative impact that it has on the cognitive faculty, you develop suicidal ideation. Because you can't handle it. You just can't handle it. It's too much suffering. The body is suffering, you're emotionally suffering, your mind, you can't think clearly, you done lost your damn mind, you just can't handle that. The only way out, and you see that. Yeah. You see that. Suicidal. Ideation. My life is over with. That's the end of my life. My husband is dead, my wife is dead, or my child got killed. It's the end of life, you see. But less dramatically, in other less dramatic separations, divorces and so forth, same thing. My wife has left me, my life is over with. Same thing. Same thing going on here. Because they cannot handle loss. You see? Period. Whether dramatic loss in the form of someone dying or someone just leaving you, coming out of your, losing your job, et cetera, et cetera. You see? It is a profound matter, as you rightly pointed out, you see. Yeah.
So would that be the same with the self-destructive behavior?
Yes, if you are feeling guilt, remember, if your emotional response is one of guilt, and you blaming yourself, I should have did this here, so you anger at yourself, right? Now, think about it. What does anger make us feel like doing to whoever or whatever we're angry at? It makes us feel like destroying, right? Hurting, right? So since you're angry at yourself, you will hurt yourself. Right? You will become self-destructive. You see? You follow what I'm saying? That's how this stuff works. This is how it works. You'll punish yourself. You see my point? Yes, beloved.
I'm not sure if this is mental or psychosocial, but I wonder if there's like a subset of denial, avoidance. I've had,
Yeah.
see, like when a person kind of like they maybe accepted it, acknowledged it, but they're just going about as if nothing happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, that could be the case, you see. All of the clothes are still there. Some people, the bodies, and you know, some people, you read in the paper where somebody died 6 months ago and they still laying up in the bedroom. Stinking. It's really interesting in some cultures, particularly in some of the, I'm trying to think of one of the countries. It's in China. What they do when the person dies, they keep them in the house for 6 months. Wow. Interesting. They keep them there because they know that some of those who love this person can't believe they're dead. So they leave them there for 6 months, so that in 6 months you're gonna realize he's dead. You know what I mean?
They do something similar to that in Mexico too. They
In
do it like
Mexico.
a month.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of Mexican funerals,
Mm-hmm.
and they do the same thing. They keep them in for a month.
For a month, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And in Buddhism, they keep them for 8
At
days.
the house.
Uninvolved?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have to be embalmed before
Oh,
you
Yeah,
ship them.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
just make sure you
Yeah.
embalm
In the
them.
old days, they didn't even embalm them because they didn't have embalming thing. They just left them there so you could see, this person is dead. See that now. You
Yeah.
see, you putting all that food there, that food ain't getting eaten.
But they use the moth balls to
Yeah,
help
take
preserve
away
them.
from, yeah. But yeah, yes,
Well,
ma'am.
I remember as a child in Tennessee,
Mhm,
and I'm talking about prior to age 6,
mhm.
they would bring the body to the house. I know it was embalmed because it was in a casket, but
Mhm.
they would bring the body to the house and it would stay there
Mhm.
for a while. I don't
Mhm.
know the length of time, but I know that was a custom to bring the body to the home of the deceased,
Yeah.
and it would stay
Stay
there
there, yeah,
in the house.
yeah. Even in some Jewish traditions, so forth, and so Mediterranean tradition, that's still the thing. All that is taking place in the house.
Yeah.
You see, visitation, the funeral, and then they leave them there for a while. But the point is that that's the way of dealing with that refusal, getting stuck in denial. You see my point? You get stuck there. Hmm? Some people, they can't throw away the deceased clothes. They got all the man's clothes, shoes, hat, they got all the woman's jewelry. You understand? They just can't let none of that go. They can't get rid of none of the loved ones' stuff. You see? Because the feeling is to get rid of their stuff is to acknowledge that they ain't here no more. Very often these people become candidates to become hoarders. You see? It's way out. You know? You see?
I think I have a client, Master, who feels guilty.
Yeah.
She refuses to accept the death claim of her husband, so the money just kind of sits
Just
there.
sitting in limbo.
Yeah, and I think her thought is that if I do this,
I have to let him go.
yeah,
See, it's their way of staying connected. You see, staying connected. And if I do that, then I have to deal with the pain of accepting the reality that it's over. They don't want to let go, they can't let go. You see, that's one of the classic symptoms of the inability to accept. You will see that those who cannot accept can't let go, and they just become stuck. Hmm? We'll get to that in a minute. You all doing great here. You're doing great. Hmm? All of this is the result of not understanding. Keep that in mind. When you don't understand, you will suffer, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's quickly look at this last segment under the symptomology of grief and loss, the psychosocial. And Dio Sabi has started us with one observation of some of the symptoms that fall into this category. This inability to become social. Yeah. So you can see a kind of antisocial pattern begins to develop. Because they don't feel like being bothered with nobody. You know what I mean? They don't feel like it, you see? At all. What else? What are some of the other psychosocial symptoms you might expect to see?
Would you be able to add rejection in there? In the sense that, okay, for instance, real briefly, my first wife was living for 22 years and she died by me not being in a position to accept her death mentally.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little baby at the time, and when he would come over, I wasn't in a position where I could actually keep him. So when he would come over on the weekend, it would just throw me back into the oblivion of,
Yeah.
you know, so it's not that I rejected him, but when he came, it would actually tear the scab off that wound that was healing.
Yeah, that's avoidance.
Okay.
And it's classic. You know what I mean? You don't want nobody around that reminds you.
Exactly.
You see my point? So, if his mama or his daddy or her mother or father wanna come up, no, you know what I mean? That's all right, you know, I'm busy, you know what I mean? You don't wanna be reminded.
Exactly.
You see my point? So you avoid those things that remind you, right? You can become kind of dysfunctional, even on you see you can't go to work, you know what I mean? You lose hygiene, you start combing your hair, brushing your teeth, you know what I mean? You begin to fall into all of those places where a person suffering from clinical depression falls, you know what I mean? You don't do the housework no more, you don't cook, you know, just like that. Yes, beloved?
How about projection?
Projection. Okay, that's interesting. Explain what you mean by that.
I was going to explain. Mistreating others, but go
Hmm? Oh, you're gonna explain? Okay, that's,
I guess,
okay,
you
come
know,
on.
you take your anger out on somebody else or the responsibility of the
Yeah,
loss of somebody
yeah,
else.
yeah, that's called displacement. You see? That's displacement. And I think there's an anger management booklet here for everybody that if you don't have one, get one because we talk about displacement in there. Because we already saw anger as a problem, right? And so when a person don't know how to manage their anger, very often what they will do is displace that. You see? You're angry at the deceased for dying, and you don't know how to handle all that, so you would kind of displace it. You see? So sometimes you become withdrawn from even the rest of the family members. You know, you get angry at them.
And we could add to that also, I was thinking transference.
Transference, yeah.
You're angry
Yeah.
at the person who died and left you or whatever, and then you have your children, other family members.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
take that.
yeah. Yeah, transference is, you know, displacement, pretty much the same phenomenon, but you're absolutely right, you see? You see, you're angry, but you can't manage it. So you can become full of blame. You see, blaming is another form of mismanaging your anger at yourself, you see? Blame others. Because I would have never did this shit to myself. My son just did that, you know what I mean? Blame. Yes.
I had also thought of projection, and I see you took it down.
Yeah, it was a, displacement was a better word for it.
Oh, I
You
see,
want to add it
okay,
back?
okay.
Yeah.
Well, certainly if there's a withdrawal, a sense of alienation, you begin to perceive reality other than what it is, and you put forth all kind of images or situations in the future in which you base your behavior, and they haven't even happened.
Mm-hmm, that's true too. You can project onto others something that the other is not. You know what I mean? That's it. And then respond to that thing.
Can I link what he was saying? I'm thinking like you can become hypersensitive to death. So if someone gets sick, you're thinking they might die.
Yeah, you can become phobic. That's certainly a possibility. You see, you can develop a kind of phobia. You know what I mean? And become overprotective. You see, of those who are left in your family or in your relationship, and trying to protect them from dying. You see, so forth and so on, which is an impossibility to begin with. So you just wind up becoming neurotic. You know what I mean?
And I would think that if you can flash back, then certainly you can flash forward.
Sure.
Even though it hasn't even happened yet.
That's called paranoia. You can become paranoid. Something's going to happen. But it has not happened, but you react as if it has happened. Panic attacks, so forth and so on. All of those are possible, you see, and they will begin to show up in your lifestyle. One of the most telltale things that you'll see, they lose their capacity to enjoy life. They don't enjoy it anymore. They can't enjoy it. They're trapped in their grief. See, you can be trapped in grief and enjoy life. It can't happen like that. You see? You can't enjoy it. You're stuck in some emotional place, some psychological place somewhere. You see? You can't enjoy it. You can't enjoy the weather. You can't enjoy the rest of your kids. You can't enjoy the good health that you still have. You got money. You can't enjoy that shit either because she ain't here. I can't go to Hawaii. You know what I mean? What? You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You lose the capacity to enjoy life. Psychosocial. Yes,
On a social level, is there a seeking out of a sameness of people that have gone through what you're going through? You
gravitate toward them and so forth?
Right.
Well, I think maybe you seek out people only in the sense for them to provide you with the sympathy, right? So you become a sympathy seeker. You know, you're looking for people to tell your sad stories so that they can feel sorry for you. Sort of like that. Brandon, sorry.
Oh, yeah, so along with the inability to enjoy life, I would say that you become feeling a sense of emptiness.
Yeah.
You know, whereas before you were feeling a sense of fulfillment when
Right.
your loved ones were here for the loss.
Yeah.
Now you
yeah.
feel empty.
Yeah. That's the classic experience of loss, that kind of emptiness, a loss of meaningfulness. Your life has lost purpose now. You know what I mean? You know, you can become bitter. Very bitter. The effects are profound, you know. The point I was trying to drive here, folks, is that the person who is suffering from grief, and that they don't get help to come out of that condition, you see, that grief will affect them over the entire spectrum of their being. And those effects are not healthy. Those effects will destroy them. It will destroy you. You follow me? And your life will fill them. And then what would you do out of that feeling of emptiness and meaninglessness eventually? You see, you just looking for it,
A lot of them become alcoholics.
A lot of them become alcoholics, drug addicts, you see? Because the agony of it all. The agony of it all. You see? It is a profound state to be trapped in. You see? Yes, beloved.
I don't know if this is folklore or myth, or whatever, but someone was saying that when you go through these kinds of things, when you're going through these things and your subsequent behavior reflects all of these deficiencies that you have. If somebody makes a statement, well, as long as you're doing this, you're keeping the other person from, being at peace. And that sometimes has actually shaken a person out of the hole that they're in.
Yeah. Well,
Is there any?
Yeah, we'll look at that when we come to this segment number 5 here. We'll look at the psycho-spiritual effects of dying, and then we'll begin to look at number 6, where we're going to the stages of reconciliation in the dying process. And we'll go to the next segment where we really talk about it. So what you're talking about, Guru Das, is a part of the Sema wisdom. You see. So let's say in certain cultures, for instance, in Tibetan culture, in Buddhist culture, the way that the funeral and burial services, for lack of a better word, are conducted such that the family comes in, right? And then they're instructed, no crying. No crying. If you gotta cry, you go outside somewhere, you see? No displays of grief. Because the presumption is that for 8 days, it takes 8 days for consciousness to actually leave the body, even after clinical death, you see? Breathing has stopped, yes. You follow what I'm saying? Brain activity has stopped, yes. But consciousness is that which was never limited to the brain or the nervous system or breathing. You follow me? You are not the breath in this body. You are the consciousness in this body. And that consciousness is now going through a process, see, of reincarnating and so forth and so on. And it shouldn't be disturbed. So if you got a person, even before death, even in the dying process sometime, when your loved one about to die, we all around the bed, oh, mama don't go, mama don't leave us, daddy don't leave us, you know, et cetera, et cetera. When you're doing all that stuff, you're making the dying person feel guilty for dying. And he ain't doing nothing wrong, he's got to die. You see, you're making his death harder. You see? If you must say something, then congratulate Daddy, you did a great job. Don't even worry about it. Go on to your glory. We cool, thank you much. You know what I mean? If you must say anything. Best to shut up. You see my point? You know, yes.
You know, I've seen that process in real life with my sister when we was down in Memphis. And my family was in there doing like a lot of crying and making a lot of noise. And she was just kind of jittery. And then when everybody left and went home, and I just stayed there with her, like at 3:20 in the morning, she just eased on out. Once it got quiet, you know what I mean, she just eased on out.
Yeah. Because you keep pulling them back. Now you have to understand, when you pull them back, because they try, they're leaving the body. You pull them back into the body. Now if you understand what is going on in the body in the dying process, the body is breaking down. Dying is full of pain. You understand what I'm saying? So you pulling them back into this cancer-ridden body, and they ain't got no morphine hooked up to them. The pain is immense. You know? They're trying to get out of this damn thing. You keep pulling them back into it. You keep pulling them back into their previous life, their attachments. You see? And so forth and so on. So that's one of the reasons why different cultures have different ways of dealing with things. In Eastern traditions, particularly in Hindu culture, you burn the body, so there's no possibility. You burn it up. You follow what I'm saying? They can't be pulled back into it. It's gone. You follow me? And you can't just be crying over ashes. Oh, Daddy, you understand ashes. You know what I mean? I believe you my ashes. You cry all the time about that. That won't affect me. You see my point? So there's different wisdom traditions handling all of those kind of things. But all of that is good insight. All of this is good insight. So good adoption, we'll come to that a little later down the road. We're going to... of course, we're not exhausting any of this. You understand what I'm saying, right? But the key thing here, and I must keep reminding you, is that this is not just about somebody else. You're going to go through this. This is going to happen to you too. You see? And either you will have the understanding to avoid all of this, or you will not. You see? So, to get the most out of our conversation, dialogue today, you see, make it personal. You see?
Can I ask you?
Yes, Bilal.
You said, a little while ago, you talked about it takes 10 days for something. I missed that.
Well, according to Buddhist tradition, it takes 8 days. Different traditions have different time limits. But you'll find in most Aboriginal cultures, indigenous cultures, non-Western culture, because in the West, we deny death. You know, you're made to look like you're alive. You're not alive. But that's, you know, because the persons who experiencing the loss need that illusion. It's about consoling them, you know. In fact, they insist upon it. You know,
Yeah,
you can be.
I thought that was a good thing when they did a good job on the body.
No, in other culture, they don't do no such thing. There is no decorating. There is no deceiving nobody. You see, death don't look like that. He looked just like that when he alive. He did. He don't. That ain't the reality. How he looked does not reflect his reality of that body. That body is bloated and it's stinking. You see, that's what it looks like. You follow me? And it creates a different kind of relationship. You see my point? To the reality of death. And so dying because you see
in your
it.
face.
It's in your face. You know. In other cultures, you know, they take that body and they would just lay it out into nature. Native American tradition sometimes would do. They just take the dead body, put it out there in a sacred place, and let the animals eat it. You see my point?
Like the Eskimos put the people out for the
Yeah,
bears.
yeah, so that the people understand that even in death, you are still food for others. You see, that you're in others. You're not in the bird. You're not in the tiger. You're not in the bear. You know, a part of your beloved is all over the place. Same concept as spreading the ashes. You know what I mean? But they actually spread the body, not the ashes of the body. So it depends. But in our culture, the reality of death is hidden. Even back in the death industry is hidden. In fact, many of the people in the death industry are afraid of death themselves. Yeah. See? So when you're afraid of dying, how are you going to console somebody who's terrified of the loss of a loved one? You're scared yourself. So nothing is said. Except here's the bill. Yes, beloved.
It's almost operates at the level of an art, because the minute you get sick, you're taken away in the hospital.
Yeah.
And 2 out of 3 of us, we don't know, we never even intubated, drugged, and you just get the call when they pass. So
that's right.
Families don't even get to really be by a bedside.
Yeah.
Except in exceptional cases.
And even the churches, you see, which in other cultures, the churches or the spiritual institutions have played an instrumental role, you know. Now you could take a body into a church, but the pastor or the rebbe or the tzaddik or the lama or the imam or the guru or whatever, they're not involved so much. You know, they'll do a ritual, and that's about it. Well, rituals don't disappear or interrupt the grieving process. They're rituals, you see my point? And that's a departure from ancient times, you see? So, a lot of time people go into churches and mosques and temples trying to get some relief, you see? But even there, they don't talk about death and dying. There's no curriculum for it. You see my point? They'll say pray, but that ain't gonna get it. You follow me? They say believe, but believing ain't gonna do it either. You follow what I'm saying? The only way to handle reality is with reality. Please make a note. There is no other way. Can't handle reality with that which is not reality for the person. True? Yeah. These are the reality teachings, folks. And the first reality teaching is the reality of death, dying, and lost. You got to get that. That was the first teaching that ancient people in Africa was given. Children were taught it before they even were taught the ABCs. They're taught the reality of death, dying. Why? So that they can make right use of their life and prioritize your life. It disappears silliness from you. You follow me? You value it. You don't postpone nothing. Because postponement is based on the presumption you got all this time. Yeah, I'm going to love you when I retire. I'm going to take you on a vacation and we're going to lay up on the beach. Wait, just wait. And then next week she dies. You know what I mean? And then you say, damn, I should have took her last week. You know what I mean? But you didn't know. Wow. With the understanding of death, you don't make those mistakes. You don't postpone love. You don't wait on it. Produce a very different kind of people. You see. So ancient people you could see, you know, not all of them obviously, but a lot more of them was more loving. Just more loving. All right, let's keep moving here because I know we got to get out of here. I'm just hoping, this is ambitious here, and I'm just hoping I can say a little bit about everything that I came here to say a little bit about. Don't know if I'm gonna make it. If we don't make it, we got a restaurant down the street. We go drink some tea at the restaurant. We keep on going here. So I'm not coming out for this no more soon. So I want to get this done. Let's go to part 3 here, right? And now look at the psychodynamics and stages of grief and the loss. And some of you have already took us there. We already have been looking at the fact that one of the first stages that you go through upon the loss of a loved one, either by death or separation, doesn't really matter too much, is denial and shock. You're shocked. You got the call, oh, you see, your husband has been killed in an accident. You're shocked. Your wife has been murdered. Shocked. The knock on the door. We found your daughter in the pond. She's dead. Shock. This can't be. Shocked. You're shocked. Why are you shocked?
Because it happened all of a sudden.
It happened all of a sudden. Not only that, you're shocked because you thought it would never happen fundamentally. That it couldn't happen. You weren't ready for it to happen, basically. Right? You're shocked. And the greater the shock, the deeper the denial. That's the relationship. Right? The more shocked you are, the deeper you will fall into denial. You see? Or the denial is that you don't want something to be the way it really is. And what are you in denial of? The reality of death. You see? True?
True.
What happens when the person gets stuck in the first stage? Because here's what it is, you see. How you will go through these stages we're going to talk about depends on the degree of your understanding. The less understanding you have, the more likely you're going to get stuck. Now, there are people who are stuck in denial and shock. You already talked a little bit about those kind of people, right? They're just stuck. They're just stuck in denial and shock. What does that look like? What is the symptomology? What are the kinds of things that profile the person who is stuck in shock and denial?
They become absent.
Absent in the, what sense do you mean absent?
But in the ability to interact, you know, you can't function in interactions.
Disconnected.
Disconnected.
What they become is psychotic.
Psychotic.
They have a break from reality. That's what psychosis is. It's a break from reality. Break from reality. What else?
Perplexed.
Oh, they had to be confused out of, you know what I mean? They just don't know what's coming. It's like they lose their mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They lose their mind. What else? And remember, people get stuck. You get stuck here. Right? Do they become maladaptive? That's what you actually were trying to get to. Yeah, maladaptive. They can't adapt to reality. Maladaptive. Yes, Ms. Evans?
I was going to say, we respect our loved one and we honor them, but I don't know, I'm just speaking for myself, but sometimes I almost was getting near like a worship
A worship,
of my
deification.
sons.
Yeah.
And I
You
just
see
thought-
that in children especially.
Yeah.
When you have a child whose father or mother passes, they tend to elevate that deceased parent to a pedestal, you know?
Right,
And make them more than what they really were. They project a kind of
Hero.
deity, they deify them, you see?
Right, yeah, and I reached a place where I saw there was a line I was going to cross, and I thought, it was almost like something in me, I believe it was God saying,
Yeah.
you know,
Pull
love
back.
your sons, but worship me, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
love
yeah,
your
don't get it
sons.
twisted, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted. Absolutely right, you know what I mean? And it goes both ways too, you know, not just from the child deifying the parent, but the parent deifying the child. It goes both
Exactly,
directions, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
You
You see?
can.
And that becomes a way to try to deal with the loss, you know what I mean? At least they were divine, they were the best kids that had existed. Now, you know that's not true.
Right.
They were perfect kids. You know that's not true. So we project onto that. It's really something, you know what I mean? You can't let go. You see? You can't let go. You refuse, you see, to let go. You see? You get stuck in that posture. And it is something. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Could you define your interpretation of letting go?
Letting go meaning accepting the reality, understanding the reality. You see? And we're going to get to that because that's also a phase in the stages. So when we get there, we'll be able to go into it a little bit more. But I want to kind of let you all do the work here, right? Systematically, step by step. But yes, and we'll get to that. And acceptance is different from surrender out of defeat. We'll be making that distinction, you see? Because you're just defeated. You haven't accepted shit. You just can't do nothing about it. Are you with me? That's not acceptance. That's helplessness.
But you're not saying that the acceptance is immediate.
No,
Okay. Thank you.
no. Unless you have understanding, right? If the prior understanding of the reality of death was there, and you have factored that into the way you do life, the way you do relationships, you know, when you married that person or when you had that child, you understood this is child and this relationship ends. Because you're living in a universe that is made up of dualities. You see, where there's birth, there's death. Where there's hot, there's cold. There's no way to separate that. Where there's love, there will be hate. They're inevitably entwined. You follow me? So you marry this woman, you don't expect her to love you forever. That's naive. You see my point? The love will go away. And it may not take very long. Just don't bring that paycheck. That's what I'm saying. Don't bring that damn flower and you can't even bring it. You see, I'm not saying it won't come back, but it's a pendulum. Pendulums swing to extremes, right? But that's the reality. And so when she's mad at you, you don't run and divorce her. You understand? It's inevitable. Come this one. So, yeah, you stay balanced. Because you understand. You didn't have a false expectation. See, when you don't understand the reality of the human condition and human experience, you form unrealistic expectations. And when those expectations are not fulfilled, then you suffer. Usually you get angry. Because what is anger other than you not getting your damn way? Now, where did you get the idea that you're going to get your way with all these people and under all these circumstances? That's not going to happen. That's how a child communicates something in you that's not grown up. That's not fundamental. Yes, sir.
Something you said earlier, and I don't know what it was, but it served as a cue to remind me of my sister's loss.
Mm.
And it was the circumstances. I won't go into them for the sake of time, but that's the death, but not me. off my so-called pedestal. So I'm sitting here, I'm fighting back tears, and
Yeah, I know what you
I'm
mean.
going through that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
But we were lost. We were separated over 20 years.
Yeah.
And then we happened to, by chance, come into contact in another state. And we settled everything, and we committed to never being apart anymore. And then she was dead in 90 days.
That's right.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's right.
But the reframing it was, what a blessing to have had that chance. We
Yeah.
cleared our slates
Yeah. Yeah.
before she died. That wasn't grace. What is it?
That's great.
Then how come my heart felt this need to bring forth the tears and
Well,
go
you
through
see,
that?
there's
It
two
seems
types
as though
of
I'm
tears.
still grieving.
No, there's two types of tears. There's two types of crying. You see, nature has equipped our body minds to cry as a means of relieving it of too much stress. That stress can be negative or positive. So I'm looking at the positive stress. Positive stress is when you have the experience of something that is so beautiful, and the beauty of it all is more than you can take. You'll cry. You cry because of appreciation for it. You see? Like that. Don't make such Yes, beloved.
I would say the sublimation and/or suppression of emotions, in the sense of, like said, at the homegoing or the celebration of life, you appear to everyone like you're okay. You got it together. But the breakdown process happens later. It hasn't even started really.
Yeah. It's the pretense because it's expected. You see, you want to behave like you are Buddha, but you know damn well. You follow what I'm saying? You follow what I'm saying? You try to appear to be more spiritual than you are in reality for the sake. You know what I mean? Oh man, that's a strong brother. Yeah, you must be enlightened. And then the reality sets in. You follow me? And it's heartbreaking. You see my point? But the positive tears, you know, it's just gratitude. You know what I mean? Because it's a thankfulness. It's a gratitude.
And a little sad
Tears.
because you are going to miss that person. And a little sad because
Yes.
you are going to miss that
Yeah,
person.
you're missing, you're grateful because the person has been good to you. This person has loved you. You see? And you're grateful. Yeah, all of that.
Exactly what I have. I never had tattoos, but
Yeah, I know. I got some too, baby. I know. That's mine.
she died of breast cancer, but
Yeah.
so she made me who I am today.
Yes, indeed. You see, and it's that recognition. You see? You see? That ain't feeling sorry for yourself. That's feeling grateful for the life and the living of the deceased. That's gratitude. You see? It ain't like I ain't gonna be all right. I'm gonna be all right because of that person. You know what I'm saying? It's a thank you. You see? That's why in some traditions, when the person is born, that's when they cry.
Right.
That's when they do all that damn weeping cry. You know, this poor person here, this baby that I'm loving, they finna go through hell. Oh, I'm so sorry. Right? They're gonna search for happiness another time. They're gonna be abused, misused, mistreated. I mean, my poor baby. And then when that person dies, no more limitation in this gross physical body. This is a prison. This restricts you. It limits you. No more pain. No more suffering. Free at last. Free at last. Hallelujah. Very different mindset. So the first stage that we got to get through, all of us, you got to get through it, I got to get through it, all of us got to get through it. Whether we get through it depends on what we do now prior to the event. Is the shock. all of us gonna get a phone call, or all of us gonna wake up and look over and the other one's dead. That's how it is. And you don't know when it's gonna happen. You can't put that on your calendar. That's how it is, ready or not. And if you are not prepared through profound understanding, it's very likely you'll get stuck. And life for you is over. You can't live in that state of mind and emotion. You can't live. This would trap you in the past, you know? You can no longer be present in your own life. You're trapped in the past. You can't live in the past. You can't eat past food because past don't exist no more. Past is no longer a part of reality. Reality is right here, right now. If you're going to live, you must live in the present moment. You can't live in the past at all. That's where you're stuck. In the past. Trying to live now in the past. Can there be anything more futile than that? Cannot happen. And you all have already outlined all of the emotion and psychological and mental and physical symptoms that comes with that. Well, if you get out of there, the next task of managing and coping with death, dying, and loss, yours and that of loved ones, anger. Well, you're going to be angry about that shit. You see? Whenever something happens that you don't want to happen, you're going to have anger about that. And nobody wants their children to die. Nobody wants their husband to die. Well, most women. Only because you get carried away. But certainly you don't want anyone that you love and cherish to die. And when they die, and they will die, there's going to be some anger. You see? Some anger. And so, how do you get through that? Well, it looks like when you get stuck at this level, what does life for you become when you're stuck in that anger? Yes, Miss Evans?
Bitterness?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Bitter. Tremendous bitterness. You see, what else?
Destructive. Destructive.
Self and other? Yeah. Yeah, because anger always makes you feel like destroying something. That's the fundamental quality of anger. It always makes you feel like hurts, destroying. Yes.
So the destruction, the punishment of that which you perceive caused you your loss.
Yeah, revenge.
Right, okay.
That's a classic mismanagement of anger, is to seek revenge. When you don't know how to do the right thing with anger, the only thing you can do by default is you seek revenge. Let me hurt this person back, or hurt whatever it is as much as they hurted me. You become a very revengeful, right? Grudge holder, right?
So is holding that person that caused your loss accountable the same thing as revenge? Holding,
that's
wanting them to
revenge.
pay for it?
Yeah, you want to pay for it.
Okay.
You want to punish them. And it could have been the person that hit them as they were crossing the street, right? And you sued, you see, but you couldn't get more than the limits of their policy. They only had $30,000 liability, so that's all State Farm gave you, right? And you saying, they done killed my damn kid and only give me this little 30. I don't even want the check. I want the son of a bitch. You know what I mean? Kill their kids. You know what I mean?
You can turn that anger inward and get depressed.
Yeah, you can turn that anger and on yourself when you're angry at yourself. The role you played. You know what I mean? You see, maybe I killed them. I nagged them to death. I nagged this damn man to death. Right now, blame myself. Yeah, you're right. You could turn it in and hate yourself. You see?
So where does illness
That's the self-destructive aspect of it, Malika, right? You know, you become self-destructive in that moment.
Is illness a manifestation of self-destruction?
Stillness?
Illness.
Illness, it can create an illness. You see my point? Because it's the somatic part, right? Because you think about it, anger, if you look at the effect that anger has on your body, anger, like grief, affects you across the entire spectrum of your being. All emotions affect you across the entire spectrum of your being. Whether you are sensitive enough to pick that up or not.
There's a physiological
counterpart
to those
because they
emotions.
connect.
Those
Mind and
negative
body is
emotions.
connected. So
Right.
what goes on in the mind happens in the body too. But sometimes the part that happens in the body is beneath the threshold of your awareness. You don't notice it, you see, until it goes unaddressed so long, it emerges as pain. Now you got this damn cancer. Well, you should have forgiven that person. Shit. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have had that cancer now. But it was under. Are you with me? Stuck in that anger. What else?
Self-righteousness.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. You justify it, right? You become very self-righteous. You see, I have a right to be angry. And therefore I have a right to be violent and mean. I have no right to be violent and mean and bitter towards nobody. Yeah, you have a right to be angry if that's what you want to do to mess yourself up, but you ain't got no right to be spewing your anger and rage on other people. Where you get that from?
Yeah.
Are you with me? True. True. But if you're self-righteous, you know what I mean? Now you feel you have a license to do that. I'm angry, I can cuss you out. You know what I mean? Right? I have a right to be an asshole. Basically, that's what you said. Because I'm angry about it. Yeah, what else? What else? We're not going to be able to exhaust it, but you are getting the sense where I'm going, right? Yes, but
Denial of all that you're talking about, it's already up there.
well, we talked about denial, but you can be in denial even about your anger, right?
Yeah.
Because the anger, it was underneath the denial.
Yeah.
But if we get past the denial, we now recognize and can acknowledge, I'm angry.
Where does fear fit in?
Where there's anger, there's always fear. Because fear is the underlying mechanism that generates the anger, you see. Because, again, what are you most afraid of? Not only dying, and actually, to be really very accurate about it, you're not even so much afraid of dying because right now you're not aware that you're dying. You see my point? Or anything of that nature. It's still a concept for you. It's not yet your reality. You don't pick up the subtle dying process. You're not even aware of that going on. You're not feeling these cells as they die in your body. You don't have that kind of sensitivity, right? But what you really are afraid of, more than the actual reality of dying, you're afraid of dying before you're able to be happy. For real. Your fear is that you will die before you have achieved real happiness in life. That's the soul fear.
It's another way of saying that, die before you're ready, or before you're prepared.
That's a little bit more intellectual, but the more human confession is that you ain't happy. See? Fundamentally, you have not yet achieved and attained that happiness by having which Nothing else needs to be done. And that's what the heart really wants. You see? None of us want to be temporarily happy. Nobody. We're not looking for temporary happiness here. We're trying to find a happiness by having which we don't have to do anything again to be happy. That's what the heart wants. Now, you settle for less. That's another story. But that's not what the heart really wants. You follow me? And the fear that I know I'm going to die, and I'm just hoping I can find this kind of happiness that I've been seeking but have not found. You've been looking everywhere. You look for it in relationship. You look for it in your husband, in your wife. You see? And you don't get it. You look for it in your kids. And yes, they give you temporary satisfaction, but I already told you that love that you found in your wife turns into hate. You see my point? Now, you didn't sign up for that. You see, it turns into some form of rejection. Now she rejects you. You see my point? And you got to start all over again. You see? The whole lifetime becomes an endless search there, seeking for happiness, capital H. You see? Not mere pleasurization of the senses. You're not looking for just sense gratification, something to eat. You know what I mean? You're looking for more than that, and there's the fear. You see? And as you get older, and more of your life has been spent in this futile searching, the more afraid you become. You see? Men hit anthropause, midlife crisis, you know what I mean? And been married for 20 years, and, you know what I mean? And doing all this stuff, and they realized, shit, I got to do something about this. I don't even like this woman no more. Damn kid, man, I made a mistake. I made a big mistake. So we leave that wife for 20 years, right? Go get us a red Maserati. You know what I mean? Get us some young people clothes on, we hit them clubs again. We out there, you know what I mean? Take off our corporate suits, you understand? We trying to live now. You see, we trying to live now. And then you pass the anthropause and that don't work. You know what I mean? You're tired. And then in 5 years you're dead. Story of man. I ain't gonna tell the story of women. You'll get depressed. You get depressed, but looking for that Superman, that man who will love you forever, for better or for worse, in sickness or health, until death do you part. That man who will love you, remember death for him. I should have cut this off on the way on my seat.
What is so much on
I need to get some strength. So you're looking for that man, that knight on the white horse and shining armor to ride into your life and make you happy forever, who'll love you and only you, baby. You see? And y'all have some pretty kids and everything, right? All of that. That made up your fantasy when you was a little girl. Because as females, you see, your imagination usually revolves around relationships. Starts when you're a little girl. And you start fantasizing about your man. What kind of man I'm gonna get? When Emmy was a little girl, in her fantasy stage, there was a program on with Johnny Mathis. You know, he got that little twinkle in his eye. And Emmy was a little girl, and she said, I want a man like that with twinkles in his eye. Well, she didn't get him. He got red eyes. And so forth and so on, you know. So you make this construct of the kind of man that you want, the dream man, right? And if by chance you should meet him, there is always the very heartbreaking reality that he's not interested in a woman like you. So you don't have the character that he requires. You're really not that pretty. As you think you are.
So cute and all that.
And if he gets at you for a little while, you see, after the honeymoon, he finds out you ain't the one for him. Because men are looking for something different, and women than what women are looking for in men. You see? That kind of man that has all that kind of character, what he's looking for in you is respect. Basic. Of his character. You see? So you can't be asking him when he comes home and out late, what we with? You with your bitch? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes,
an
sir.
insult.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You got a problem, you know what I mean? And you talk to this man about your problem. This man is going to be focused on, baby, this is what you need to do to solve the problem. You can't say, don't be trying to tell me what to do. You can't say no shit like that. You know what I mean? 'Cause that's what a man does. Man, nature solve problem. You want to just talk about it, call you a damn girl. You didn't understand that.
That's what's up.
Right?
That's what's up. That's what's up.
So after enough of those episodes, suddenly he's withdrawing from you. He don't take you nowhere no more. You see? He don't hold your hand no more. He don't come home and hug you, kiss you, say, what's up, baby? That's all wrong. He's withdrawing. He's stepping back. And then you step all the way out. And you get to chase your fantasy again. But this time, after 20 years, you really ain't all that no more. Right? That Coca-Cola shape is gone, you know what I mean? Right? And you walk down the street, ain't nobody whistling, ain't nobody ask you for your phone number no more. You don't cross over. You got them 2, 4, 5 kids, come on, you see? So forth and so on. Let me get off of that, right? But the point is your fantasy dies, and you can't handle the loss of your fantasy. It's dead. And you can't handle it. The loss of having the kind of man you imagine. You have lost something that didn't even exist. But you can't even handle that kind of non-existent form of loss. You're grieving the loss of something you never even had. It's tragic, don't you think?
Deep.
Deep. Never had it. Yes, Miss Evans.
Talking about symptoms of anger,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that it can show up in the way we move around, like the way we walk, and definitely the way we drive.
Mm-hmm. Displaced anger can turn into road rage, right? You see. It definitely gets communicated by your body language. There's even a kind of vibe that you throw off. You know what I mean? You see, that other people respond to, react to. People suddenly don't want to be around you. Nobody wants to be around an angry asshole. Nobody. So how would you attract love? You can't. You follow me? Wow. You become isolated. Alone on your own little island. And notice that when you're stuck in a state of anger, can you enjoy?
No.
Can you be happy? All that is gone. In that state of anger, you can't be happy, you can't enjoy life, you can't enjoy any beauty. You lose your ability to even enjoy beauty. You certainly can't love. All that is good in you is destroyed. Anger burns it up. It consumes it like fire consuming drag race. The most destructive thing about it is that you destroy your own divinity. You destroy your own humanity. It's a terrible place to be. Terrible place to be. But if by grace or chance that you're able to pass through that, either on the strength of your own understanding and the work you've done on yourself spiritually and psychologically, so forth and so on, then there's the next stage. And here's where you try to cut a deal. The bargaining stage. See? And it may be, again, the best perceive this is like in the dying stage of the loved one, right? And while they're dying, you know, you done got through here, but you're here now. You see, you still want to stop this thing from happening. Are you with me? So you want to bargain, you want to come with a strategy, you want to make a deal, presumably with God or somebody like that who has supernatural powers. Say, God, if you would just not let my wife, my child die, right? I'm going to do this deal. I'm going to go to church every Sunday and put more than $5 in the and stop drinking, drugging, carousing. I'm going to get right, you see. Just don't let my daughter die, you see. Don't let my mother die. Don't let my father die, you see. I'm ready to make a deal now. No fooling, no kidding. You see. In some extreme cases where we have the neurotic, you know, their bargaining stage not nearly this rational. Not that this is rational, but here they're talking about bringing back to life. And they did bring back to life, like you did Lazarus, Jesus. You did Lazarus, Jesus. Get my son up out of this damn grave. You see. But it's basically the same thing, deal making. And no matter what you are doing, the person is getting closer and closer to death. You're making all these deals. What happens with a person that is stuck there? What it looks like. They're burning the church 7 days a week, burning candles, doing rituals, pouring out, you know what I mean, rum and candles, and, you know what I mean, all kinds of rituals, right? Trying to reverse the dying of their loved ones, the ending. You do it aside of death and divorces, you know, now the relationship is over with, done. This woman is through with your ass, you know what I mean, or you through with her ass, you understand what I'm saying? It's over, right? But the other in that relationship don't want it to be over, right? So now she's wearing those lingeries that you bought her to be. Is that all right? Now she all up in your face, man. You tired now. You done with her, right? Or now he's trying to take you to her wife. You say, well, you don't want to throw her wife this ass no more. You know what I mean? You done. Well, you know, I'll buy you a new car. You see? I buy you this, I'll take you there. You're trying to negotiate the process and reverse it. True? And when it's over, right? But you're stuck in all of this manipulation, maneuvering, so forth and so on. Right? And this is what you do with your life. That's all you do. Now the woman is gone, you all up on the job. Cooking her lunch. You know what I mean? She filed a restraining order against you. You know what I mean? You violate. You know what I mean? I love you. Wow. Here's some money. You know what I mean? Let's go on a date. You follow what I'm saying?
So at that point, you're trying to resurrect the relationship.
You're trying to restore it.
Restore.
Right. You're trying to keep it from ending. It's about keeping something you want to not eat from ending. And you are investing all your energy, time, and attention in trying to pull that off. Not able to recognize reality. You see? Not able to recognize when things are over. You see? The mind keeps projecting onto reality something other than what it is. You see? So you're stuck in your mind. It ain't over. It ain't over. It ain't over. That denial piece is still there. It ain't over. He loves me. The children really loves me. But we're going to get back together. No.
This is beyond denial. That's the illusion.
That's the illusion. That's what we call Maya. Maya is that state of mind, that state of presumption that is based on the inability to see reality as it really is. That is what denotes the Maya. The mind makes Maya. You see, the mind can only dream. That's all it does. It dream about shit. And then that dream is responded to rather than the reality that is there.
Can you go through the deal making without the anger?
Well, the deal making part of it, let's say, is what you're doing with your energy.
Oh.
I mean, anger is the kind of energy, you see. So, yes, you can use that energy.
Display anger as deal making. You can display your anger as deal making.
Well, you're at that stage where you're using that energy. Anger is energy. You know what I mean? Just like if you go, for instance, me and we understand this from our experience in sports. You know, like if you're on a team and you're down at halftime, and the coach brings us in the locker room, he starts talking all about stuff to us, right? Because we didn't get that anger going and turn it into what? Motivation. And put your ass back out in the field. Now you're ready. You see, you're ready to kill somebody out. You're motivated. He's transformed the anger energy and turned it into a basis for motivation. So you bring in all that energy now, and you kind of make every kind of, in fact, at that stage, you know what I mean? You're in a whole nother place now. You're totally obsessed with and preoccupied with that deal making stuff. You know what I mean? You ain't got time to be worried about nothing else. You see? Yes, beloved.
So the anger on a psychodynamic level has something to do with the fear of change?
Yes, definitely. Here you have attachment operating. Very good insight. You know, that's the attachment. The clinging. The clinging. That's attachment, you see. Because very often at this stage here, you really feel that the person that you're losing belongs to you, like a pair of shoes. So there's a lot of that self-righteousness going on, right? It's my husband you walking with, bitch. You know what I mean? Give him back. That's my woman. You see, men are very territorial like that. So even when you divorce them, you still belong to me. I know.
I read several of your books via Brother Bhagwan, and I love the way you typed that in because it was the first book about the anatomy of the ego, which attaches it. That's one element of the ego, which is it attaches itself to things. So, but you also stated in your literature that it can't stand, the ego can't stand to lose things because it feels as though it's going to dissolve into oblivion.
That's right. It diminishes. It's like losing money. You know what I mean? True. That's true. That's true. That's true. And so that's what it becomes. You know what I mean? That's gravity, that attachment. It's mine. It's mine. You see? You're mine. You're my property. You belong to me. You're mine. You see? I'm going to get you back. You see? If I have to borrow all the gold in the world, says this one belongs to me. But like my shoes. My shoes. My shoes. The man got your damn shoes and gone. You gonna get those shoes back? Oh, God.
That's all right.
That's all right. But that's how that goes. You get stuck in there. You get stuck in there. And spend your whole life just doing that. Trying to come up with ways to hold on to something, and to possess something that in reality is not yours. Nobody belongs to anybody here.
I really
Period.
appreciate this part because it reminds me of when my mother passed. I was praying, right? And I was like, listen, God, if you just give her back, we don't have to have the funeral. And then after the funeral, I was like, I'll give all the cars back, all the money back. You know, we just work this out. It's true prayer. It happens, but the bargaining part is real. It's like to me, it's a form of desperation.
Yeah, that's a
But then
form
my
of-
anger helped me.
Yeah, that's absolutely, and that's a real courageous confession to make, because some people don't want to acknowledge where they're at, whether it's due to actual physical loss or loss in terms of separation and relationship. But it mimics the same dynamic. Beautiful. Yes, beloved.
I don't know if this goes into another stage or not, but I'm wondering if there's another form of dealing or bargaining that's more like coping and giving up.
That's probably some earlier form of when you were stuck.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But then again, beloved, that also can be a part of the next phase. Let me go to it, and maybe this is where it might be the best place to address what you have said. So we passed number 3. So the fourth place that we get is surrender. Now, surrender, not in the sense of acceptance, and we were having that conversation with that young lady, right? Right. So this is the part you were addressing earlier. Surrender, but surrender in the form of defeat, which is what Aviasi is saying. You're surrendered, but it's not a positive surrender. You defeated.
Right.
That stage in the process is where you feel helpless and hopeless. And you simply have given up on all those previous strategies. Through defeat. You know what I mean? You wave the white flag. I'm done. I'm defeated. I don't accept it. You know what I mean? Underneath that surrender, there's still that rejection of reality. You still want it to be the other than the way it is. It's still there. You know what I mean? You just defeated. You can't do nothing about it. You can't raise her from the dead. So you accept it. But there's a rejection of the reality still underlying that apparent surrender. You see? It's not a real letting go based on profound understanding. It is a kind of pseudo letting go based on powerlessness to do anything about it.
It's a negative disillusion.
It's a negative surrender. You follow me? You're surrendering not out of understanding. You're surrendering because you just can't do shit about it. You see? That's a giving up. But you still are not happy with the situation. You see? There's still rejection of the reality of it all. You see? There's still non-acceptance going on. Yeah. And you can get stuck there. Yes, Miss Evans?
I don't know if I'm seeing it right, but I had a picture when you were talking about anger, like loss of power, because, well, I don't know why, I'm just connecting that. And then the next one, the bargaining is like, oh, I've got some power, I can do something.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like a roller coaster, and then we get to surrender, and it's like crash.
Yeah, that's a good way to look
Really no power
at it.
again.
Yeah. At the bargaining stage, you're still operating on the presumption that you got some degree of power where you can change this reality. You see? So you're operating out of a delusion. Because the reality is you don't have no power to stop nobody from dying. You have no power to stop what is going to be lost in this moment. No power whatsoever, but you're deluded. You see? You're operating out of Maya. You follow me? You don't have that kind of power. You see? Jesus puts it very bluntly to us. He said, can't even change one hair gray yet. Let's get real here. You see, you're not breathing your body. You're not splitting no cells. You're not firing no synapse that it gives you the ability to speak. You're not moving this body. What power are you talking about? See, that's the ego delusion. The ego think it's the doer. You see? That it's the kata. You see? The doer. The personality, the ego, is not the doer of anything. You with me? The ego is made out of the same stuff that dreams are made out of. You know? How you dream you a king? Now you ain't no king, but you can dream you're a king. Well, in the same way, you're dreaming in this state of mind that you are this and that. But it's the same stuff. You just dream. You see? With eyes open. So I'm moving around, but you're still dreaming. You see? That you are who you think you are. It's a dream. Purely subjective, correct? Because ain't nobody who you think he is, right? You know what I'm saying? I ain't want you to respond to him based on who he think he is. On his dream that he's made up about himself. You know, I'm a king. You see? And respond, but you can't see that. It's like that. Sort of like that, Miss Edwards. Not exactly, but you see the point? Whereas in this state, if you get stuck here, right? What does your life look like now? You stuck. Do we see some of that bitterness, Miss Everett, that you talk about coming in here? The kind of bitterness?
Despair.
Hmm?
Despair.
Oh, yeah, I like that even better. That's better than bitterness. Despair. Full of despair. Something. Something. Can you be happy?
Nope.
Can you have joy?
Nope.
You can't even live, technically. Yes, you can breathe in and out like the bellows of a blacksmith, but that's mechanical. Your life becomes very mechanical. False, phony, pseudo. Just going through the motion.
So you basically existing
And
in
yet,
a twisted sense of reality.
Yeah. You absent, even from your own life.
Wow.
Just going, nothing. Just a ghost in a machine, the body mind. It's a terrible life from that point on. Yes, beloved?
Is there a circumstance where that becomes a pretense that's true, but you put a different pretense to those
Oh, sure.
outside?
Sure, because that's the ego. See, that's the ego is pretense. That's what it does. It pretends. That's all it does. You're really here, but you pretend like you're not here. And that pretending that you're not here keeps you from dealing with this.
Right.
You pretend. But this is what we all do. I mean, it's not like they pretend.
Right.
We all pretend.
Exactly.
And part of the task of acquiring this understanding is to see where you're pretending and know when you're pretending. Understand that. When you are able to stand back and observe your own pretense, that you cease to be a victim of it because you create space now. Right? You see? And like, you know you got on these clothes, and I know it when I put them on. They went on this morning. I put them on. These not me. These clothes, that they're not me. So you know when you putting on your act.
Right.
Follow what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Right? And it's just, I'm not even against it. Just don't get identified with that. That ain't real. That's your act. That's your ego act. That's what you are pretending. And the motive behind your pretending is because you want to attract other people's interest and attention in you. It's your politics. Are you with me?
Yeah.
But it ain't real. You see? So when we get home and take off all our drag, take our teeth out, oh my God. Then we're back to our real condition. Oh Lord. And we pray to go to sleep as quickly as possible. Because deep during this sleep is the only place we get relief from despair.
Good stuff.
Real deal?
That's the real deal. That's genuine. Good stuff.
So we have to begin to devalue this pretended self that we have become addicted to and cling to. You see, that's the spiritual task of life. To know yourself beyond your pretended self. That's what that is. Because you know the pretended self, but you don't know the real self. But understand, you just pretending. That's all you're doing. And it's okay. I'm not against it. You see? It's socially required. But it's just pretense. And you're not really as happy as you try to make other people think you are. You see? Nor are you really as sad as you try to make other people think you are. See, that's a trick too. Follow what I'm saying? Ego is very tricky. You see my point? Because I can come up with a persona of a profound suffering and, you know, all bad stuff that happened to me, you understand? And that's effective in recruiting your sympathy. Right? Have you ever noticed how happy people are when you talk about all the bad stuff that doesn't happen to them? Just look in their eyes, you see a little gleam, and if you watch close, you'll see a little smile. They enjoy talking about their misery. They enjoy that. It's joy. Even in that, you see. So they construct a persona that is effective for that. You see my point? Let me vent. You know what I mean? And they enjoy venting. You see my point? Let me tell you about all the, you know, the bad thing on him. Listen to my tale of woe. And as they tell it, man, they just really, they get excited. They get happy. Yes, beloved.
Like the hypochondriac.
Hypochondriac, yeah, like that. You know, look what I'm suffering from today. Yesterday, I thought that was bad. Girl, let me tell you. I had no idea. You see? And they do it over food. They be enjoying each other. You see my point? That's how it is. But the reality is that underneath all of that, where you are really at, you're in despair. That's your spiritual condition, despair. And that despair, again, like everything else we've been talking about, is the result of your lack of understanding of the way this thing is here. If again, by grace or by work you have done on yourself, you're able to move beyond that, then you come to the healing part of this process, right? So we move from shock and denial, right, and down through the deal making and bargaining, down to the defeat level. Now we come into where the healing really can begin. You see, you accept. Not based on helplessness and powerlessness to do anything about it. You accept it based on understanding of the nature of reality. This is how it is. You see, in Buddhism, there's a beautiful word there. Tahata. Tahata is difficult to translate into the English, but the closest we can come to it is called suchness. This is the suchness of life. You see, the suchness of it. You live in the suchness of life. Now you know you have been born, then know that you will die. This is the suchness. Anything that is born will die. Anything that comes together will come undone. You see? This is the suchness. You see? And you become free then of all of this other stuff. You see? In this state of suchness, all your likes and dislikes disappears. You're no longer doing life on the basis of your likes and your dislikes because you understand that the suchness of life has nothing to do with your likes and your dislikes. Life is not going to bend and become conformed to either one of those. You're not going to be able to edit from your experiences stuff that you dislike, nor are you going to be able to create at will those experiences that you only like. That's not going to happen because that's not the suchness of life. Are you with me? And as you become more and more grounded in suchness, then you develop a thing called trust. And when you can trust life and live life out of trust, that's a happy life. There's no worry. See, when you're here, you always worry that some shit is going to happen that you don't like, or something you like is going to disappear, and you worry all the time. That is basically the mechanism of worry, isn't it? You see? And that's your ego, isn't it? Ego is the source of all that. Have you ever really penetrated the mechanism that generates your likes and dislikes? It's very interesting. Why you like certain things and why you dislike other people? Do you have any idea how that is happening to you? It's really interesting. With deep inspection, you begin to find that your likes and dislikes are fundamentally based on this. You like whatever reinforces your false image of yourself, and whatever does not reinforce your false image of yourself is what you dislike. And it's not limited just to people. You follow me? People that reinforce your imaginary sense of self, you like those people. You want to be around them all the time. People that undermine and diminish that sense of self, your ego I, you don't want to be around them. You don't like them. And it's also true of things. You see? You don't like a regular little car. You like Mercedes because they give you prestige.
SRT.
It's prestige. Status, prestige. You like stuff that give you prestige. I don't know one big room. I want a house with 12 rooms. You know, prestige. Are you with me?
Yes.
So ego determines all your lives, whether in people, places, things, circumstances. All ego-based. And anything that enhances and reinforces it and glorifies it, you like, and anything that does not do that, you don't like it. It is. And you spend all of your time, energy, and attention trying to control reality in such a way that, you see, you're able to stay in your comfort zone, having only those things that you like and none of the things you dislike. But you have no trust. There's no shraddha. That's what faith is. True? Yes. You have no faith. Trust. And then there's no worry. No anxiety. Profound. That's acceptance. Based on a radical understanding of the nature of this place. Profound. You understand you being living. Not just inside, but outside. Everything that has happened to you is being directed and governed by the same intelligence that is breathing, splitting cells, made you out of nothing, literally. Made you out of the glow of the head of a spermatozoa. You know, when the sperm is a glow, you made out of light. Same intelligence.
Preach.
I'm preaching. I got to give a collection. That's acceptance, you see. And that's why I was telling you from the beginning here that if you can accept reality as it is, if you can find a way to abide in this suchness, to be conscious of the suchness, to be mindful of suchness, then there is no more grief. Then nothing wrong is happening when your loved one died. Nothing wrong has happened at all. This is the suchness of life. And you know that? When relationship ends, nothing wrong has happened. When your man stops loving you, when your wife stops loving you, nothing wrong has happened. When your kids don't listen to a damn thing you say, ain't nothing wrong with that. Well, pretty good, man. And then don't you feel better now? You feel good, right? So your mama was right? Your mama was wrong. Pretty good, then. Yeah. Roger that. Nothing wrong with that.
When you can say yes to everything.
When you can say yes, based on understanding, not a mechanical thing. See, not saying yes and feeling no. See, that's that false surrender.
Yeah.
You see, you're saying yes for the sake of keeping faith, but really deep down inside, you're saying no. That's dead. Your yes saying is just more of your egoic behavior. Are you with me? It's not genuine. And how you know it's not genuine? Because it doesn't relieve it. You see? It doesn't relieve it. You see? It's like eating food and you're still hungry. You follow what I'm saying? No real need is being fulfilled in that moment. You're chewing the food, but you're not swallowing it. How would the hunger go anyway? It will not go. You only look like you eat. Put it in. Put it in. You see? Take the teachings in, come in one ear, go right out the other ear. It don't go down deep to the core. It doesn't hit you in the heart. So you don't experience any relief. Follow what I'm saying? Well, that was the easy part. Right? So we move briefly and very briefly in that through the psychodynamics and the stages of grief and bereavement. You see? Hopefully that has prepared us to go a little deeper into it. And again, I know that we're supposed to be out here what time, Rennie Kamara? 4:30? Okay, we got enough time to keep it over. And again, if there's something left, if you got the time, I'm gonna make some time, we go drink some tea and we get this business handled, because you don't know, you might die tomorrow. You might die tonight. So you don't want to just make this philosophy. You see, you don't want to make this into information. Information is never transform anybody. It's just damn information. You see? All right. So far, so good? Excellent. Let's move to the next. You remember our conversation? You have your notes? You got them? Okay. From our meeting, these are my guinea pigs. I know I left something out for y'all too. They're in your cell phone, beloved? Yeah. Where did I cover? We did about half, didn't we?
Yeah, we did that first thing.
We did the first half. Who knows of these?
Who knows of these?
Ronnie Kamara, because you ain't this intelligent.
Email them to me already.
Thank you for that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, let's continue. What are the therapeutic stages then? In reconciliation and recovery, like from
Where you got that
loss?
Acceptance?
Yeah, that's the first step, right? So you got that, right? So the first step is acceptance. Got acceptance. And that's like a first step in all kind of recovery, isn't it? Even in drug and alcohol,
Exactly.
we come out of denial and acknowledge the reality, and then you can start that long process of recovery. But all recovery processes require that you accept, right? Now, when you accept the thing, what follows from that? How does that acceptance show up? What are the signs of acceptance in terms of the way you do life?
Peace, you have
That-
peace.
Well, yeah, but I'm looking for something more specific. How do you know?
When you have accepted.
Yeah.
Well, you
How
should-
does acceptance show up?
Where we don't-
It's not just something in your mind.
In your behavior,
Acceptance.
yeah.
Yeah.
You don't try to make
feel-
something what it's not. You trust the process, you trust life, you trust what's happening.
You feel relief or unburdened?
You stop seeking.
Yeah, you all are coming close. I mean, it's all of some of those things, you see. But don't you think that your life,
Becomes easier.
what? Don't you think that acceptance is manifested in your life?
Yes, yes.
What does that look like?
You're not suffering.
What in your life, in your living, in the way you're doing life, in your interaction, in your relationship, how does your acceptance of the reality shows up? Yeah, it got to change then, right?
Yeah.
I
Right?
want you to go from
You
a
have to
crisis
deviate.
of grief to a reduction in the previous symptomology. So there's some form of not quite normalcy that returns,
Mhm.
but.
I see where you go. Actually, what she's saying, is that, and I'm glad you're saying that, because what you have to understand that in that process we described, that acceptance that we're starting off with here, that might have taken this person a year, 2 years to get there. That kind of acceptance that comes at the end of all of that ordeal, that kind of acceptance requires time. Now, there is a kind of disorder, we mentioned it at the beginning, that we call prolonged grief disorder, which means for some people, it takes a long time to get through all of that. Some never get through it, and they have to be institutionalized. You follow me?
Yes.
These are the people that you have to really medicate for real, no fooling, no kidding. You see my point? Because they're just a mess. They messed up at the level of the body, they messed up emotionally, their cognitive faculties are all messed up. You follow what I'm saying? They just messed up. But barring those types of cases, people will usually take time. How much time depends on how your degree of and lack of knowledge of the nature of reality. But it takes time.
One of the ways I think that you could, that it would manifest in your life is that you accept things as they are rather than as you want them to be.
Yeah, it's something like that, yeah. But it becomes reflected in your living, of the way you do your life, your living. You see, it shows up in that, you see.
Well, you're not angry, you're not all those things that we went through.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't
first
live
of
on the
all,
basis of what you like and what you don't like.
you're detached.
Oh,
Detached.
Which is not the same as indifferent.
This is not the same as indifference, you know, detached. You're not clean. You're in a state of doubt, fluid, what the ancient Egyptian mystic called ma'at. You see?
Yeah.
You're in harmony. I'm talking about, remember that when someone has died and you've gone through that process, at least to the point of acceptance, now you come alive again. True? That you live again, so maybe that'll help you better understand where I want you to go. What does it look like for a person who has recovered from the grieving process after they have accepted that reality? Yes, Ms. Edwards?
I was gonna say, when I wake up in the morning and my first thoughts are thankful and maybe enthusiastic about what's planned for the day.
Again, you come alive. That's good. So what else?
I was thinking about it. I wasn't thinking the word attached, but I was thinking of it in terms of life going on.
Yeah, life goes on.
Because you have to go back to work. You have to go to school. You have
Function.
to get back to normalcy, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
So I understand this. I just lost both of my parents within a week of each other.
How long ago was
So
that?
it's been, I'm looking at everything you're putting up and I'm like, yep, check that, check this. But this is where I've had to land because I have to keep moving on.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad. I
Yeah.
think about it every day.
Yeah.
You know, you're still gonna breathe,
Yeah.
but you have to keep living.
Yeah, you let go. And actually, technically, for each individual, the process will look a little bit different. Because each of you all are so unique. I'm just giving some real kind of general things to this argument. But certainly, you know, you hit that let go, you see. And you begin to slowly understand. That's what the time does. The time is what it takes for you to understand what is perfectly obvious. But it take you some time, you see, to see that you're going to be all right, and that life goes on, nothing wrong happened, and so forth and so on. Yes, ma'am.
It reminds me of this guy, Almas, who talks about the holding environment that we have that represents existence.
Mm-hmm.
And something is reached when you realize almost within a doubt that you are fundamentally supported in your growth and expansion. I think the sort of Buddhists or other wisdom school call it the fundamental ground of being, but that is the realization that it is you alone. And on that basis, how could you possibly make a misstep if you just trust that everything coming to you is inimical to your growth?
Oh, yes. You see, the trust is based on a profound understanding, a very profound wisdom, you know. It's based on what has become for you a reality, something that you actually are able to perceive, not necessarily with the senses. Because with the gross physical senses, nothing that you perceive reflects reality.
Exactly.
Senses distorts reality. But something higher than the senses see that, what the Kemetic mystic called the eye of Heru, or the Hindus call Tarisratil, or the third eye, and so forth and so on. That which sees that there is no oasis in the desert, even though your eyes clearly see what you assume to be an actual oasis. But there's another level of seeing that we have that reveals there's no oasis out there. Similarly, that third eye that is able to see there's no oasis in the desert, that same third eye sees that nothing is how it appears to be here.
Nothing what's it?
Nothing is as it appears to your senses here.
Right.
Including people, places, circumstances, and things. Those are appearances created by the same limitation of sense perception that generated the appearance of oasis in the desert. So you respond to basically that higher thing, you see? You never have make yourself psychologically dependent upon anyone or anything for the sake of being happy. Because you know that to try to do that is an illusion, futile. It's like trying to swim in the waters of a mirage. And thus you never have to go through that kind of disappointment. You follow? It's a very different thing, you see. It's a very different thing. This acceptance, I mean, we could spend the whole evening just really going into this thing, because acceptance is the key to life. And that's why the Buddha says that if you can meditate on death and find out all of its secrets, you know, or at least enough of those secrets, if you can understand that, you see, that's enough to bring all suffering to an end. You know, the Buddha whole ministry, like that of many spiritual teachers, they came here to deal with the one reality that all of us are confronted with. We may disagree on theology and what's God and all of this other stuff, but the one thing that we all can agree on is that our problem is that we're suffering. So the Buddha did not waste any time in getting into theological argument about this and that. He dealt with one thing, suffering, what he called dukkha. You see? This suffering. And this suffering is based on the lack of understanding that which will generate real acceptance. See, when you understand there is no oasis out there, you understand that. You don't see it with the eye, but you understand that. You don't run for it. You don't chase it. Similarly, when you understand this body is going to die, this is going to end. There's nothing wrong in death. Where there's birth, there will be death. Everything ends here. Your relationship ends. You follow me? People stop loving you. You stop loving people. Things fall apart here. You will have failure in business. You see? If where there's success, there's going to be failure. You follow what I'm saying? When you understand that, then those expectations of swimming in the waters of a mirage disappears, and you can never be frustrated. Because what is frustration? Other than the abortion of your expectations of life. Yes, ma'am.
So for the funeral directors in this room, the acceptance is, this seminar just broke up any misconceptions that you had, that you were going to walk away from here and go, and every funeral you ever do from now, you're going to be healing people instantly. You're going to be the greatest funeral director in the world, because that's that oasis your ass came here swimming in. And you might as well accept you're going to have some good funerals and you're going to have some bad ones. By the way the family's going to treat you. Ain't no elixir, ain't no magic formula, ain't no wine that you have in every funeral you're going to get. Just be successful from here on out.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely right. You see? And some chicks gonna bounce. And that's all right. You see? But I think I might make a part two. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Would it be all right?
It's worth doing part two.
Because I don't want to gloss it. You know what I mean? Would that be all right?
Yeah. Gotta be talk about that relationship.
And what we'll use the rest of this time for just spontaneous dialogue.
Okay.
And so forth. And anything else you want to do, anything you want to talk about. Yes, ma'am.
I think grace is a part of the time where people are allowed to get through the stages, but unfortunately, a lot of people who have not experienced the death of a loved one or someone close, because everyone's relationship with their loved one may not be close, it may not be a good relationship, it may not be a bad relationship. But I so many times hear people say, let go, and you gotta move on, and life goes on.
Right.
But there's no compassion there. It's the way you say it, and without the understanding
You won't have the compassion.
that it's going to take time.
Yeah.
And if you have not had that experience many times, you even seeming that you understand, so many people say, oh, I understand, I know you feel, no, you don't.
Right.
And that really is something that I have to try to lovingly correct people on when they say, I understand how you feel, and I tell them, you know, really explain it to them. How do I feel? And then it kind of helps people to understand that they really don't know how you feel. When people tell you life goes on, you got to get back to normal.
Yeah.
Normal is what reality is. For some, it's where you are, but at the same time, a lot of people say let go and get on and move on, with the pretense for you to act like that person never existed. And to me, that is cruel. It's not compassionate, and it's just, it's sometimes people just looking for something to say. When sometimes all you can do is just be there. You don't have to say anything. I think that's better for most people, because some of the things that come out of people's mouths is unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. I see your point. You know, the demeanor, particularly of those of you who are working in the end-of-life industry. You see, one of the qualities that had to be possessed by one who would be allowed to function as SEMA, you see, or as a Bordeaux master, and so forth and so on. One of the things, sister, that they had to have was compassion. Compassion. Bringing a person through that loss process requires great compassion, and it requires great skill and understanding. The mystic says sometimes you see removing this illusion that most people are operating out of, that caused the grief in the first place. The removal of ignorance is like removing a silk cloth from a thorny rose bush. Ignorance has to be removed very carefully. You try to pull the ignorance all at once, you shred the scarf. You have to lift slowly, slowly. So it's not something that you will help them get through an hour after the ceremony. You're looking at a sustained process. Like we call it constant. You see, if you're going to do anything like that, you should be prepared to spend at least 8 weeks. Minimum of slowly. And you have to do it after the ceremony. Because that's when, as was pointed out, that's when it hit. You follow what I'm saying? Because everybody's trying to be strong for somebody. You know what I mean? But behind that effort to be strong, as Brandon said, it hits you. You see, and that's when you have to be there. The time to be there for the family is after the fact. With great compassion. Yes, beloved.
Now, I want to say this, which for me at least, it comes through very clearly that I do want to be good in my field. I can only be as good as I've worked on myself.
True that.
So the value of sessions like this, it's not somebody outside that we focusing on. The central person, the central character in all this is the one who's attending.
Yeah, well that's obvious. You can't help somebody do what you can't even do yourself. That's more pretense. And see, that's the fallacy of professionalism. See, oftentimes people become identified with professional, being a professional. But you can never be more professional than you are human. That can't happen. Just becoming a professional doesn't transform you into no Buddha. You follow what I'm saying? So you have to have done this work on yourself. You see. It's very interesting. In part 2, we'll come to a part where we're going to talk about this dying thing. I mentioned earlier what Paul said, I die daily. Right? That's a key. You follow me? Because what these Sema priests, what these Barrow masters, what these great gurus and realizers, these rabbis, these adik, and so forth and so on, what these men and women have done is what Paul has done. They've gone through that dying process themselves in the form of meditation. Are you with me? They've gone there. They know the process inside out. Are you with me? And therefore they know, you follow me? From the first-hand experience. That's how they can hold our hand and walk us through the process. It's not theory. It's not philosophy. It's not psychology. It's not rhetoric. It's not professionalism. It's the real deal. You see. And you can't get that from attending these kind of workshops. You can't get it from reading books. You can't get it from going to conference. You have to do that work on yourself. So you got to look at your own experience in life and see how well are you handling loss. You see, you got to get down with it. How well do you handle it?
And this also enables you, if the opportunity should present itself, to have a really great organization.
Yeah.
Because your staff and everyone will have the opportunity or be exposed not only to your behavior as a model, but you can guide their development in a more benevolent way. Even your family at home.
Of course.
It transforms your own life.
When you transform, everything is transformed.
Right.
And this is the key. And you become food. You become elemental, you see. But you have to really do that. I mean, really, you know, and I think that's the part that we oftentimes miss, because all that stuff sounds good that we've been talking about. But the process to bring that into your reality, that takes everything of a man and woman. And you really have to be serious. I'm reminded of a story out of Sufi tradition. It says one person who was a seeker of truth, serious seeker of truth, who has studied all kinds of sutras, all kinds of scriptures, you know what I mean? I mean, really, you know, not like us, I mean, really, really, really serious, searched high and low, right? And the one thing that he could not understand after studying and visiting so many great teachers, he could not really understand. What he really wanted to understand is what happens after death. You see? Because there's so many theories about it, you know what I mean? The Buddhists say this, the Christian says that, the other ism says this, somebody says that, but he really wanted to know. So he prayed with all his heart and soul and all of his sincerity to God to please tell me, my Lord, what happens after death? And it is said that the Supreme itself appeared to him in a vision. And you see, it said, my son, you see, you have been seeking so long. You want to know what happens after death. He said, yeah. And it is said that the Lord slew him on the spot. Because the only way you know what happens after death is to die. There is no other way to know it. Now, strangely enough, meditation has been called dying while living. Most people who meditate know that, right? That's real meditation. It's not an exercise, it's not yoga, it's not stretching. You understand what I'm saying? It's dying. So what happens is that in meditation, you duplicate the dying process. Are you with me? Starting with the body, right? And as the Bible tells you, first you make this thing still. Make the body still. Find an asana, posture, and you hold it to the still. Relax it to a point of absolute stillness. Then what will start happening is your attention will start withdrawing from the body. You with me? The 5 elements that make up the human body, you know, earth, wind, fire, blah, 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 you all know that, but they start dissolving. And you will start experiencing the reality. First, it's pain. And you duplicate that. Because when your dying happens, you will start withdrawing from this body, from the extremities. And this gonna hurt. So you get used to it hurting now. So that later on, you'll be able to tolerate the pain of the withdrawal of the senses and attention from this body. You follow me? When the water element collapses, you're going to get cold. When the fire element collapses, when you get cold, you got to get used to being cold. You know, like you get that body, how cold it is? That's how the body going to feel when you go deep into samadhi and meditation. It's going to be cold. You're going to duplicate all of that in this body. And that's the first part of the dying process, is the withdrawal of attention out of this body. The next is the mind, you see, the emotions, so forth and so on. That too is going to be withdrawn, you see, to withdraw from your mind. Can you imagine? You know, you probably can imagine what the ordeal of withdrawing from your mind is like. Willingly, it's very different. You see. Just to withdraw from thinking. You know how hard it is for you to stop thinking? You get scared to stop thinking. Because you equate stopping thinking with dying. Right. It is. But you withdraw your attention from thinking process. You're ready. You see? That's what Paul talks about. I die daily. Paul is talking about I do my meditation every day without fail. We do our meditation sometime when we feel like it. You see, that ain't how that works. Those old shamans, even in Native American and Aboriginal culture, those shamans, they go bury themselves out of the ground so that they can know what it feels like when the breathing stops. Got to handle it too. See, no more breathing. You see, they want to know what that feels like, because that's what it's going to feel like for you too. For real. You see? I mean, so you got to go through that process. And you are only really effective and useful to your clients to the degree that you have duplicated that process in yourself. Otherwise, you're going on hearsay. This is what somebody done told you. You don't know it. And you will not have you cannot do it authentically. It won't have much effect on you because they'll feel it ain't coming from no place deep in you. You're feeding some shit you don't read somewhere. Are you with me? Your being is not there. They don't feel the truth of that. And your compassion will be phony. You'll try to be compassionate, but it'll be scripted, phony, not genuine, not spontaneous. It's scripted. You're going through a routine. It's mechanical, you see. There's no love in it. You follow what I'm saying? How can you be compassionate without love? You see. You have to have a relationship with your clients. A real relationship. Not just a source of income. Follow what I'm saying? If you're looking upon them as just a source of income, you can't be no sailor priest. You can be a funeral director, but that ain't a seamer priest. Follow what I'm saying? And then as you say in your family, okay, you're right, Carl. Somebody in your family gonna die. Or lose somebody, right? Then what you gonna do? Follow what I'm saying? How will you console your son or your daughter when they lose someone they love? You see? What you gonna do? I mean, really? This reality teaching on death, dying, and law, this is the supreme teaching. If you can get this, you can get the rest of it. If you can't get this, the rest don't even count. You'll become a scholar. You'll become a philosopher. You see, maybe even a pretty good psychologist. But you're not going to be of any use. So it's an individual decision we all got to make. Why? Because you're going to die. You see, I got to keep you focused here. This ain't so much about the other. We're talking about the other to some extent. Don't misunderstand. But don't forget, don't get this thing twisted. You gonna die. You are dying as I speak. And it's gonna be sudden. And it's gonna come ready or not, you're gonna die. Either you will die a miserable death or you'll die full of grace based on your profound understanding. But you're gonna die. This thing gonna end here. Now, how you gonna handle this? Philosophy ain't gonna get you through no dying process. You see? At all. But you believe it's not going to get you through that process. You know, you got to have something for real here. No fooling, no kidding. You see? You have to get serious about it. Yes, beloved?
If someone is dying, should you tell them?
If you're dying, should you acknowledge you're dying? Would you want somebody to tell you?
Yes.
Would you believe it?
Yes.
Well, I told you already.
I mean, Master, the person may be in denial, you know?
Well, that's what the SEMA priest does. That's what the Bhagwan process is all about. When the person is dying, the Bhagwan master comes to it. Because this person, like us, they live their whole life. They don't have no understanding. They don't know what's happening until they feel like they're losing their mind. Because they're losing their life. That feels like losing your mind on one level. They don't know what's happening. You know, I can't hold no water. I'm shitting all on myself. I'm pissing on myself. My appetite is gone. My vision is blurry. I can't hardly hear nothing. They're falling apart. They don't know what's going on here. Right?
Right.
And the SEMA master comes and tell them, beloved, you have entered into the dying process. That's usually even after the sense of sight is gone. Now their eyes are closed. They're still conscious. They can't even see no more. Seeing, touching, tasting, feeling, and smelling, all shut down. Now they're just consciousness trapped in this body that is falling apart. And so they whisper into their ear, beloved, you have entered into the dying process. Now this is what you are to do. You see, not to be. You understand? They start giving them those instructions. You see? The book, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, contains a lot of those instructions. They tell them what to do. You see, my you're going to come to a tunnel. You see. Don't resist that force. It's all right. Don't see the light at the end of that tunnel. See, go to the light. You'll hear this sound. Listen for this sound. They're guiding them through the dying process. So the question is, if you can't tell them, then what use are you to them? Why are you in the room? Why are you standing there? You can't do nothing for it. Because you don't know nothing. So get your ass out of here. And let the same person do their thing. Yes, beloved.
On the subject, you were talking about telling a person who might be in denial about dying.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're talking about in the last stages of the Bhagwan. But to be honest with you, we're dying now, and we're in denial.
True.
We're in denial.
True. That's the point I was making. That earlier today, you already died, but you don't accept that, and you won't accept it when you got an hour left either. Because you've never accepted it your whole life.
So does that mean everyone we encounter are exhibiting the symptomatology of grief?
Unconsciously. Yeah. Yeah, unconsciously. You go in there, now go deep, push that real deep.
Yes.
It's on a very unconscious level. They don't know what's going on at the conscious level, but they're experiencing it. The dying. The dying.
Okay.
You see, it starts. They start feeling it slowly. Just like your mustache, you couldn't feel it growing. Right. But it was growing. Right? Young ladies, you couldn't feel your breasts growing, but they were growing. It was unconscious. But they were growing, and then at a certain point, they break up into consciousness. So now you feel like, oh shit, my back is messed up. You know what I mean? But it was on its way to being messed up a long time ago. You just didn't notice. It looked like your mustache growing. Are you with me? Wow. And then the death process starts with the body, right? The eyesight is getting bad. Now we can't see. You give you some glasses now. Your hearing is gone. Yeah, you were calling me? You see, slowly, but it was going out the moment you were born. It starts slowly going out. See, so it takes a certain amount of awareness to be cognizant of that. Hence, the emphasis on meditation as a means of expanding and deepening your awareness so that you're aware of all of that. You see? As it's going on in you. But certainly, as you were saying, Vikaraj, even now when the mystics tell us that you're dying right now, we don't, you kidding, Buddha. Buddha, you kidding, you joking me? You see? Yeah. You don't believe it. And that's the thing. See, you don't accept it. Now this is the bottom line. Psychologically and emotionally, You just flat out cannot accept the reality that you are dying and that you will be completely dead at some point soon. You just refuse to accept that because accepting it frightens you into believing that if I accept that, I won't be happy. So you keep it, you avoid it as best you can, but you can't. Now that's the truth, isn't it? That's the truth. You just don't, you can't emotionally deal with all of that. All right. And yet you must accept that if you wish to live a wise life.
And even this fear that I will die before I'm happy is not enough to even...
It comes from the non-accepted because now that's what creates all of this, this kind of frantic behavior on our part. You see, because that's what we try to do. On the one hand, you know damn well you're going to die. You know that. You know it in your gut. You know it. You know it clearly. Ain't no doubt about that shit. You see, you ain't seen nobody that came into this world not die. You never seen that. You never seen anything that has come into being that did not cease.